And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let Dr. Zybell take it over.
Great, thank you so much. So thank you everyone for joining me today. As you know, finding that balance of life and school can be a challenge. So my name is Tammy Zybell, and I have been in academia for the last 16 years. I've worked in both the online format and the traditional environment. I am very passionate about the profession of education and nursing. And for me, this is the perfect combination. I started out wanting to be an educator for the hearing impaired. And when I was pregnant with triplets, I found the online environment myself. And so as a nurse, it was the perfect fit for me. I got to be in the educator role and also into the profession that I love. So my passion is supporting other individuals as they are making that journey themselves. So let's talk about some of the common barriers that individuals have when it comes to getting their education. So when we're looking at completing your education, one of the things that we look at is cost. So that's one of the things I know that draws a lot of individuals to Aspen University is the low cost for the quality education that you receive. So we're kind of knocking that barrier out there a little bit. But then we're talking about those job and work responsibilities. And we all know that those can be overwhelming. They can fluctuate anytime during your program. And so those are things that are often the barrier to individuals completing their education. And then we have those family responsibilities. And when we're looking at family responsibilities, we're not looking at just those individuals who have children. We're looking at individuals who have parents, who have brothers and sisters, who have siblings, whatever that family dynamic is. We're looking at those responsibilities and the barriers that they can cause when individuals are seeking their education. And then we're also looking at student loans. So we talked about the cost of a degree, but now we're also looking at student loans from maybe previous degrees that have been earned. I know I am still paying for my DMP, and I have a desire to go back and get a PhD, but that is causing a little bit of a barrier for me as I'm kind of looking at return on investment. So that is something that we also have to look at when we are looking at completing our degree. Does this look familiar to anybody? Anybody but me? I know I look at that picture and I think, yes, that is me on the left-hand side there. And then you throw in a few cats and a few other things going on, and that seems to be my life pretty consistently. And for the gentlemen that are here, yeah, you guys are in the same boat with us when it comes to being overwhelmed with that work and life. And how do you find that balance? How do you achieve that balance? So one of the things that we like to say is that we want you to care for self. And if you're a student of mine, you will hear me constantly saying, okay, take a break, let's care for self. And what does that mean for you? Well, when we're looking at that, one of the things that we're looking at is sleep, we're looking at exercise, and then we're looking at nutrition. So when we're looking at sleep, how much sleep do you think we all need? And does that change? I know we've all studied this, but do you remember really truly how much sleep you should have? Should have is the question. All right. So when we're looking at sleep, of course, that changes. So 18 to 60 years old, you should have 7 or more hours of sleep. 61 to 64, you should have 7 to 9. And then 65 years and older, you should have 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Now, how many of you get that sleep? I can't raise my hand. If you're my student, you'll see that I'm usually up at like 4:30 in the morning, starting to work on things, trying to get caught up, add more hours to that day that I'm feeling I'm always short of hours in the day. But according to the CDC, we need to get that sleep. So what can we do to increase that? So some of the things that we could do is to be consistent. Go to bed at the same time each night and get up in the morning at the same time. Each morning when even on the weekends, make sure you're going to bed at the same time and trying to get up at the same time in the morning. My husband is always yelling at me on the weekends, why are you up so early? Well, because I'm used to getting up and this is my most productive time. So we want to make sure that that bedroom is quiet. and that it's dark and that it's relaxing, that you've got it at a comfortable temperature. I live in Florida, and we're at 90 some degrees during the day, and then we're dropping down right now into the 30s and 50s. And that big flux is making our controlling our temperature here in the home a little bit challenging. So we've been flipping on the air and trying to and the fans and trying to find that balance. But finding that warm temperature or that cool temperature to sleep in is really important. You want to make sure it's that quiet, dark, relaxing environment that you can fall asleep in. Um, you want to remove those electronic devices such as TVs, computers, smartphones, and you want to remove them from your bedroom. So when you go to bed at night, put on your do not disturb, flip your phone over and hit the mute button so you're not getting disturbed by that. They try and recommend that you have no blue light for at least an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed, which for many of us, we're working all day, we come home, we do the kids thing, and then we're trying to get caught up on our work. So it's not always easy for individuals when they're doing that, but that is something that we want to try and look at doing. Avoid those large meals and caffeine and alcohol before you go to bed. Although some individuals might think having a glass of wine right before you go to bed will help you sleep, science has proven that maybe that's not the case. So make sure you're trying to avoid those big meals, caffeine, and alcohol right before bedtime. And then one of the things that they're recommending is that you get a little bit of exercise before you try and go to sleep. It doesn't have to be that you go out and run a mile, 2 miles. It could just be some stretching, some yoga, whatever it is that you might find beneficial to get a little bit of exercise in. Exercise. So we just mentioned that. So what is really required when you're looking at exercising? So for adults 18 to 64 years old, we're looking at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity activities such as a brisk walk. We want to do that at least 2 days a week. And we want to make sure that we are strengthening those muscles. And then we want to make sure that we are as active as possible and that we are keeping those muscles as pliable as we can as we're getting older. So, according to the CDC, exercise should be included in at least 150 minutes a week, and it should be moderate in at least 2 days. And then we want to make sure that we are also including activities that help keep our balance as we're getting older. And then nutrition. Boy, again, this kind of looks like me. I before I started nursing, I was very thin, but then we kind of lost that care for self along the way, and we started focusing more on the patients and what the patients need, skipping those lunch breaks, doing long hours at work, not really doing the things that help us as nurses care for ourselves. So, besides the sleep, besides the exercise, let's look at nutrition. And one of the things that we need to look at is that those individuals that have higher stress levels tend to engage in emotional eating. That's me. I'm one of those. I'm not hungry, but I'm going to eat because I'm stressed, and I'm going to eat because it's a comfort. Is that the right thing to do? Mm-mm. So, what we need to do is when we're experiencing those higher levels of stress, we need to look at truly, are we hungry? Assess, why are we eating? What is it that we're doing and why are we doing it? So, it's been proven that during those stressful events that cortisol is released. And so that's usually a factor that's often influencing that desire to eat. So we want to make sure that we are having those cortisol levels checked, and we want to make sure that we are identifying what's going on. So, one of the things I just talked about was, why are you eating? So let's practice that mindful eating. Know that if you're craving something, it could be a result of a stressful event. And then ask yourself, are you truly hungry? And then wait a few minutes before you eat. And are you still truly hungry, or has that passed? Let's find some healthier options. If you still feel the need to snack after you've asked yourself, am I hungry, or is it really not? If you're still hungry, then let's look for some alternative snacks that you can have. Consider a low calorie, lower fat option. Um, than what you might previously had. On my counter right now, there's a box of donuts. And, it would be really easy for me to go and grab a donut. But if I just turn around and I face the other direction, I can get a glass of water and I can get a hard boiled egg and a stick of cheese. So, let's make some of those healthier options when we're looking at um, uh, doing that late night eating or that stress eating, if if that's indeed what it is. And then the other factor that we want to look at is we want to look at that portion size. So instead of me taking that whole box of donuts, which boy, I'd love to do, there's some great looking donuts in there. But instead of us doing that, turning around and grabbing one egg and one stick of cheese rather than, a handful of cheese cubes and multiple things that I could grab in the fridge, I'm going to look at the portion size and identify, what would be a better option. It's helpful if you're looking at servings and what you're eating to actually look at the box or look at whatever it is that you're going to be eating and see what a serving size is. And then that will help also determine how much you should take of that item when you're going to be eating it. All right, let's look at managing time. And that's something that most of us never feel that we have enough of. As I mentioned, sometimes I feel like I've got a major presentation that I'm doing, or I'm working on specific projects. And, as soon as the rest of the family gets up, then my time is taken away and I'm now directing it to in other activities. So we know that time can be a barrier. That's just one of those things that exist for attending and completing school. We've looked at how cost and juggling family and life and work responsibilities can be overwhelming. But you're here and you're being successful in school. So obviously you've learned how to potentially overcome some of those challenges. But let's take a look a little bit more at some of the different things that you could do. So one of the things that we want you to do is plan. Look at your schedule, look at your life, and say, what's going on in my life right now? Is this the best time for me to be going to school? Um, what are the courses that I'm going to be going into? And do I have the time to commit to those courses? Those of you in the DMP program, you're getting into the project courses later on. You're going to be implementing your project. You're going to be required to be at the hospital or wherever your project is going to take place. That's where you're going to be a great deal of hours. So you want to make sure that you have those times to be able to commit to the course that you're going to be taking. You want to look at any major life challenges. Are you getting married? Are you having a baby? I know I was finishing my dual master's degree with triplets, and I signed up for a class, and I was 6 months pregnant. Well, a month into it, I went into labor early and ended up finishing my class after the babies were born. But boy, if I had to do it over again, I would have thought about signing up for a class when I was 6 months pregnant. And, you know, I should have thought a little bit better and planned a little bit more when I was doing that. Um, One of the things too is looking at that course. For those of you in the DMP, go into the lounge, the DMP lounge, look at the courses that are listed, look at what's required of those courses, review the syllabi or syllabus, and see if this is the perfect time for you to take that course. Make sure you're planning. What is it that you need to be successful in that course? If you're employed, maybe you need to look and say, okay, do we have any major changes? Are you implementing something new at work? Maybe this isn't the best time for me to take on this major course. Um, are there conflicts with your work schedule? Do you have children that you need to worry about? Do you have parents that you need to worry about taking care of? Whatever those things are that could potentially be a barrier, now's the time to look at it and plan it out. So once you've decided that this is the best time for you, then let's go ahead and prepare. So let's look at you've identified all those individuals and all those things that could be a barrier. Let's prepare to make sure that those things are not a barrier. Take that time off of work if you need to. I recently had a student who needed to catch up on an assignment. He was able to take a week off of work and complete the requirements to be successful in completing that course and that assignment. Um, I had another student who was having a baby, and so they decided not to take the course. Or if they were taking the course, they were planning on how they could manage the course if they went in early to deliver, how they would be able to maintain that and they worked ahead, which is another thing we're going to talk about here soon. But make sure you're preparing for that course and preparing for those barriers that might exist. Identifying time off if you need time off, identifying daycare if that's what you might need, getting somebody to clean your house if that's an overwhelming task that you just are not up to. Some of those things that could help break down those barriers. All right. So then once you've identified it's the best time for you to go to school, you've planned it, you've prepared everything, then it's time to execute. So now is the time that you bring all of those individuals that you've identified as support system into the plan. Um, you are marking your calendar, you're keeping everything up to date, and you're executing that plan, making sure that you are going to be able to be successful in the course. Oh, one of the things I like to add is that as you are managing your time, one of the things that you need to do is add on your calendar time to care for yourself. And I know that that sounds counterproductive if you think about adding yourself to the calendar to care for yourself, but if you don't do it, and I want you as you're doing it to look at it as any other appointment, any other meeting that is on your calendar that requires your 100% attention and devotion. Because when you get on to a meeting, you've got something on your calendar, you're going to stick to that schedule, you're going to sign on, you're going to be present, and you're going to be active in that meeting. And that's what you need to do when you're caring for self. It could be that you schedule yourself a 15-minute break. It could be that you schedule a full hour to go out and take time for a lunch with a friend or a spouse and actually take that time to care for yourself. Um, find what recharges you the most and make sure that you do that, but add it to your calendar. All right. I wanted to share with you just some apps that will help you find the balance. So the first one here is Evernote, and it is a time planning app, and it helps you keep track of all the different tasks that you might be coming into. You can do it in one area, and it's you can place it in the order of importance, and then you can cross it out when you get it completed. I love doing this for my assignments that I'm doing in courses because what it does is it allows me to put the date, and so I know what's coming up, and it's on your phone. So it's really nice to be able to do that. Stop, breathe, and think. This is a app that it's pretty clear from its name, like it says. It is a highly efficient mindfulness app, and it helps you whenever you feel like an anxiety is increasing, you can jump on this and will help you stop, breathe, and think, which many of us need to be able to do. Fitness Buddy. This is a personal coach in your pocket. So it helps you with exercise, it helps you with meal planning, and it helps you set those healthy parameters. And what's nice about it is you scan your food and it'll help keep all of your diet and all of your calories and everything for you for the day. So that's really a nice option. Water Minder. We all need water. So it's really important that we bring something into our lives that will help us remember to drink. I have this big bottle and I challenge myself. It has like certain levels that you have to get through at a certain time, and then you fill it back up a second time and you keep going. Simple, and it sounds crazy, but it motivates me to drink. So, but there's different things that are out there that will also help you motivate yourself to drink. Waterminder is one of those. It sets up timers for you in a Bing and tell you to drink and how much to drink. And then antisocial. So if social media interrupts your studies and you can't resist, antisocial will block certain apps for a definitive period of time to avoid procrastination and interruption. So I need that for a few of the apps that are on my phone personally. So that is just something that will help keep you focused and keep you motivated. Oops. All right. So one of the things I hear from students is that they always feel like they're struggling. They always feel like they're working so hard. They can't find certain things. They just feel like they're working harder, not smarter. So this next area, I just want to point out a few things to you that will help you work smarter, not harder. And I'm going to run through these kind of quick because I'm looking at the time. We're at 7:21. So the Student Resource Center, as you can see on the screen, the Student Resource Center has a lot of information for you. We have our Getting Started guide that will direct you through Canvas and all the different areas within the Canvas courses and Canvas tools. We have virtual tools, managing grades, student success seminars. That's huge. There's different, like this, there's different individuals who have provided um, information on how to be successful as you're navigating through online school. There's writing, there's basic math review, stress and time management, and presentation. As you're completing your DMP, you're going to need to have that presentation that you're going to be completing. You're going to need to speak in front of everybody and defend your project. So we want to make sure you have those resources for speech and presentation. We have APA formatting, we've got computer help, and then we have English language learners. So here's a listing of some of the different student success seminars that we have. We have the APA formatting. We have the scholarly writing, which is definitely beneficial. PowerPoints, first person narration, um, screenomatic, plagiarism, all those different factors there that you can look at. We've got one that talks about stress and time management, how we can manage student stress. What are those stresses that we have? How can we reduce those? We've got some student study skills that are available, time management, like what we talked about. And then how can we be successful in online courses? So there's different tips in there for students to be successful in online courses, and then also that stress management. The English language learners, what's really great about this course is it is for individuals who are who have English as a second language. And this was created by a student who faced challenges and overcame them. So she's speaking of this firsthand, and she's sharing her knowledge and experience with how to be successful in classes. So it talks about schedule to your success, getting organized, ways to tackle APA. Give yourself grace while you're working hard in week in and week out. Make sure you're giving yourself that grace. Asking for help, and then practicing self-care. Basic math. This is really just talking about the different fundamentals of mathematics. It provides just reinforcement and support for you as you are going through the courses. APA formatting, this is a big one. We want to make sure that you understand the basics of APA formatting, how to develop that title page and how to do the reference page and specific 7th APA formatting, references, the in-text citations and the references, how to make sure you are doing that correctly. Proofreading, and then the use of different citation managers. So all those components are important and relevant for individuals. The next thing we're looking at is writing. And this is an introduction to writing and the formatting process. And we want to make sure that you're breaking it down into smaller steps so that you're building up into the areas and the complete writing process, but that you're comfortable as you're developing your items that are required in the program. Speech and presentation. I mentioned this earlier, that this is where we will help prepare you for formal presentations and speeches. We want to make sure that you're comfortable with that process, that we're giving you those tools to be successful. So what is the basic communication process? How can you improve your listening skills? What is that nonverbal and verbal communication? How do you grab your audience and keep them enthused and interested in what you're talking about? Um, Speech and presentation, this is something that you will take with you beyond Aspen, beyond your degree. This is important as you are that interprofessional collaboration and that communication with your staff, with your peers. So this is something you will definitely need to have. Computer help. It talks about the basic skills that you need to be successful in the computer system and the terminology and the equipment. So I can't tell you how many times I have students who come back, they're coming back into the nursing program or coming back into school, and they're terrified of all the technology that we are working with. And they haven't done a discussion post, so they don't know how to do it. They haven't done a PowerPoint presentation that has voiceover. So this is a way of helping these individuals get comfortable with all these different technologies that are available and walking through those different technologies. Okay, so I buzzed through that because we're coming up here on 7:30. But one of the things that I want to leave you with is that this comment here. So you see the lady in the middle? All those things were kind of like weighing down on her. And now here she is. She's got her hand out. She's confident, and her shirt says in control. And isn't that such a great feeling? Just when you say that, it's a great feeling to feel like you're in control of the situation. Hopefully you've learned that throughout this presentation that there's different things that you can do to help balance your life and work. But the main thing that I always like to tell individuals is that do not let school control you. When you go to your class, you've made that decision, you've planned, you've prepared, you've done it, it's the right time, it's all great. That first week that you have in that class, open up your calendar, open up your syllabus, and then start putting things on your calendar and saying, okay, this is due here, this is due here, this is due here. Johnny has a football game on Friday, and I've got a paper due. So how do I balance that? How do I make sure I can go to Johnny's game without feeling guilty, without not being present, even though I'm present? And the way that you do that is by making sure you know what the expectations are for that class, when the assignments are due, what assignments are due when, and planning ahead of time. Um, look at like I said, look at that calendar, plan out the events that you have. If you have to go take care of mom or dad and you got that paper due, well, how can I make sure I'm doing that? You control school. Do that assignment when you've got the time, save it, be specific with what it is, what week it's due. In mine, I actually have the weeks broken down, weeks 1 through 8, and then I have the assignments there, and then I label them specifically for what is due and when. Then when it's due, you pull it up, you review it. It's amazing. You click submit and you're done. And now you head out the door to go to Johnny's football game. Much better to do it when it's your time, when you're in control and you're relieving that stress and you're relieving that pressure. There's going to be times when things come up and you're not going to have that control. But overall, if you start looking at school with the mindset of it's not an inconvenience, it is a means to an end. It does provide me opportunities. Lifelong learning is amazing, and you will go places with this education that you're receiving. But if you look at it from the point of I am in control, I'm the one who's going to direct when and how I do things, it'll be a much better experience for you. And I wish somebody would have given me that advice when I first started going to school myself. Okay. So at this time, I will go ahead and ask if there's any questions that I could answer for anyone, or if there's any dialogue that anyone would like to have.
All right. Well, thank you, Tammy, for
Welcome.
this. And then, like I said, anyone in the chat, you want to go ahead and add the chat, we can definitely ask those questions. Don't be afraid. Dr. Zybell does not bite, especially virtually. Yet, maybe with all the technology that's coming out, maybe we can figure something out.
I just have a quick comment. I really appreciated some of the apps that are available on your mobile devices to help organize your time. Some of those I was familiar with, but some of them I was not. So I really enjoyed hearing some of those options. It's always nice to have different options when you're thinking about ways to organize your to-do list. And if you're somebody like me and you like to check off those to-do items, it's nice to have it all in one spot in your mobile device. So that was really great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's important that if you are trying a device or trying something that an app, if it doesn't work for you, don't get discouraged and think that that's just not going to work. Try it until you can find something that works for you. There's so many free apps. I know a lot of individuals say, you know, I just don't want to spend money on it. There's so many free apps out there. So just keep working at it until you find something that works for you.
Fantastic. Tanisha has a question for you, Dr. Zybell. Any